Bass Musician Magazine. I'm here to talk with Jon Von Boehm about his latest release.
Hey.
Jon, what inspired you to do a release entirely different from anything else you have done?
So I do the Sidemen thing in town, but in Nashville, the Nashville area. But as an artist, everybody kind of knows me as the chops guy, jazz fusion, a lot of shredding going on. And when I'm at home practicing, I'm practicing a lot of that. But when I'm listening to music, just to veg out and chill, I don't listen to that stuff really. The last year, I've been listening to a lot of pop and K-pop. I know K-pop, but some of it's really good. I do like the writing. And so I wanted to do something along those lines, but with vocals. And that's where Ali Cutter comes into the mix. I've been playing with her for like 3 years now, and her vocals are just on point. She's been doing it pretty much her whole life, and the whole record, she sings on the whole record. There's like no auto tune at all on the record for her. It was so easy to work with, and her instrument's awesome. She has really great ideas. And so I approached her. I was like, hey, you want to do this thing? She said, sure. So I started writing the record. What I would write the record, write a song with vocals in mind. So I'd have space in there. And then I would shoot that to her, and then she would come up with her own ideas on top of that. I didn't give her a lot of direction. I kind of wanted her to do her thing, because I wanted to stay away from my other stuff. But I didn't want it to sound too much like my other stuff that I've previously put out. So she would shoot the vocals back to me, then I'd put those in my DAW, and then I would either add or take away parts that would complement what she was doing. But yeah, I guess even though it's different, people who know my music can still tell it's me, because there is still chops on it. I think my solos are a little more subdued on this one, which is funny because people will hear it and think it's a shred fest. But I'm happy with the way it turned out, though. It's pretty cool. And, my next record might be a full-on fusion record or a metal record. I don't know. I just like I don't want to do things where I'm doing records because this is what I think people expect from me. I want to have the freedom to just create what I want to create. And that's where my head's been with this record. I did it, and I did it with 6 songs. And I think those 6 songs, I'd said what I needed to say with those 6 tracks. So yeah.
Okay, so this new release, with the exception of drums and vocals, is all the instrumentation is just bass. Can you tell us about the different effects you used on this release?
Well, another thing that people know me for is the whole pedal thing. But what's funny is I don't really collect pedals. I have my pedal board set up exactly the way I want it, and I know what kind of sounds I can get out of it. But I use on the record, you hear a lot of sub bass stuff. I call that my hip hop setting. And what I'm doing in that instance is I'm using a Cusack sub fuzz, which I love Cusack pedals, by the way. And when I run that through a DOD, what is it? I think, it's the FX25. It's the envelope filter, that DOD. It's the older one. I think might be a 90s, from the 90s. But with that pedal, if you turn down the sensitivity, it's basically the meat box circuit. So those 2 pedals combined, I get that really low, like ghetto blaster sound. And yeah, for the most part, I'm using other stuff. I'm using is like the amp tweaker tight metal for all the distortion stuff, the lead solos. And I use a Cusack delay. So when you hear me using distortion, I'm putting the tight metal, the amp tweaker, through the delay to get that sound. And I use the TC Electronics Vortex. I think it's a flanger. I just know what sound it makes. And yeah, some octavers. I use an MXR octave pedal. But yeah, I have gone down the pedal rabbit hole, but I have, like I said, the pedal board set. But for like the string parts on the record, I did some MIDI. I did a lot of MIDI stuff too. So you'll hear some string parts, and that is actually, I use Reaper to record with. So in the DAW, I think you can do it with most any DAW, really. If I open up the tuner that comes with Reaper, I can check the box that says send MIDI. So I just bust that to another track where my VST instrument is, and I can do whatever I want. Oh, another thing that was cool about the record too, I left this out. Most of the solos on it are just the scratch solos that I used to send to Ali, so she would know when a solo happened. And then after I got them back, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm going to stick with that. But yeah, that's the gist of the pedals and MIDI thing. And again, everything on the record except for maybe 2 or 3 loops is all bass. It's all me playing those parts, essentially. So yeah, that's how that works.
Oh, that's interesting. So of all the tracks on the release, which one is your favorite and why? Or maybe which one was most fun to work on and create?
When I am writing, I put parts of my life on hold so I can write. And then once I get over a certain hump, I feel like the creative juices are flowing for the rest of the record. It's kind of easy. It's downhill. I really like doing the whole record, especially with Ali, because I'd write something and send it to her. And when it came back, it was like a whole new song. So that made the whole project pretty darn cool for me. I'm pretty proud of the song Deepness, though. I like the vibe, and I also like the bass sound, the main motif bass sound I've got on that one. It took me I sat for a long time trying to get that sound exactly that I was hearing in my head. So I think that turned out pretty well. Again, I'm proud of the whole thing too, actually. And I always tell people this, like, records are just like snapshots of where you're at in your particular music life. So I don't want to have any regrets about anything, really. I probably, years from now, I'll look back and say, yeah, that's cool. That's where my head was at that time. So I didn't really want to put out anything I didn't like, because I have other songs that were in the can that were ready to go to record. Those didn't make it onto the record because I just didn't like them too much, really. They weren't working. They weren't speaking to me. So those songs are gone. And I put my favorite 6 on there. So yeah.
Well, I've got to say, I've heard the release and I have a hard time picking a favorite one. I like all of them. So
yeah,
you're really well known about using the Shoal basses. How did the Shoal artist relation come about?
Well, so I'm a one bass guy, even though you see multiple basses back here. For recording, I'll grab more than one. But when I'm out performing, there's always one bass. I'll just kind of grab it. That's the bass I play. Some guys will play a gazillion basses, but I really, when I get stuck on one thing, I kind of just stay there for a long time. And my setup is, I have a low action. I set up pretty low. I had a hand injury about 15 years ago, and I cannot play basses that are set up for trade shows, or I can't go to a Guitar Center and just play a bass. I'll have to not play for a week because my wrist will be in so much pain. And I would go to NOM shows, and these Shoal basses would be there, and I'd pick them up, and it was like, man, I can actually play these things. Not only can I actually play these things, but they're probably the most exquisite instruments in the building, as far as I'm concerned. They're just, Pete Schultz's craftsmanship is second to none. I just can't say enough about the guy. But one year at NAMM, we were talking, and he just said, hey, I would really like to work with you on something, can we make this happen? And it was like, he had no idea. I don't think he had any idea about how I felt about his instrument. So when he brought that up, I was like, yeah, okay, let's do this thing. And, came back with that guy. I think it was like, I don't remember how long it was in the shop for, but to finish it. But once I got it, it was pretty amazing. And right out of the box, it was set up for me perfectly. I didn't have to because a lot of basses, I might get them and I might have to tweak it here and tweak it there and get it exactly the way I want it. But that thing out of the box was just good to go. And that's like my main gigging bass too. That's like when I'm doing recording sessions and gigging with different artists, that's the one I grab because it sounds amazing. It's passive. I'm a passive guy, and I can get just about any tone I want out of that beast. It's the bomb, and it's light. So, yeah.
Great. Can you tell us about your other endorsements?
I'm endorsing, DR strings, my favorite strings. It was nice to come back to playing them because they were actually the first strings I think I ever slapped on a bass when I was a kid. So playing those again has been pretty awesome. I say again, I've been endorsing them for maybe 2.5, 3 years now. Cusack pedals, like I said before. And Phil Jones bass. Yeah, Phil Jones bass. I love Phil Jones bass stuff. It's light, sounds amazing. I can set it flat, and it's just killer. You know, I'm using the C8 with the I can't remember. It's the new 800 watt amp, but I just used it at a gig in town. And since the doors, everything's open in Nashville now, I think there was like nearly 1,000 people in the venue, and the thing just slayed it in there. It was a big room, small amp. It just filled the whole place up. So can't say enough.
Well, I want to thank you for your time, Jon. And
yeah,
about the release, where can everyone pick it up at?
I did not do physical copies this time around. I don't know if I ever will do physical copies again because it's all streaming now, but people can get it at pretty much any streaming services, iTunes, Spotify. Gosh, if I looked up my distributor right now, if I had it in my hand, I could tell you all the places, but it's pretty much everywhere you can stream and download. Oh, it is on, I did put it on Bandcamp too. So if Bandcamp's your thing and you like supporting artists a little more directly, it's on there as well.
Well, thank you, Jon. And to all the Bass Musician Magazine readers out there, we'll provide some links for you below the video. And I'll also be doing a review of the newest release.
Oh, tight. Sweet.